great pleasure to welcome to What's Next, Dayle Wheeler, who's the Managing Director for SmartCrypto. Hello, Dayle. How are you doing?
Good morning, Aki. I'm almost as well as you.
I'm doing great, thank you. Can you tell us a little bit about SmartCrypto, your company? What do you guys do? What are you guys about?
Sure. Thank you for having me on the show. Who is SmartCrypto? We are a niche cryptographic provider. We enable as well as securing your business really at a foundational level using two technologies being certificates, which we use for automation, and keys for confidentiality. Maybe a little bit more of an explanation in terms of cryptography. Cryptography secures your credit card, it secures your bank account, it secures your Google account, biometrics through your phone and your face recognition or your health records. And of course, what everybody asks is Bitcoin. Cryptography secures all of these environments using technologies such as encryption and tokenization or PKI.
So you guys do it's a very relevant one today, because when you look at it globally and you look at what's happening and, with all these breaches and, everyone's petrified of getting their data stolen, you're very much in the limelight in terms of protecting that data. So talk to us about SmartCrypto and where it fits into this data protection landscape. You touched on and alluded to a few products over there, but it's interesting, as you were speaking, it's got such broad application, right?
100%. At the end of the day, cryptography is not just about securing, it's also about enabling your business. Today with this whole insecurity and increase in threats, we're starting to see that cryptography is becoming first and forefront in a lot of minds and organizations. So, from a data protection perspective, as you guessed, we're really at a foundational level specializing in that generation, the configuration, and management of certificates and keys, no matter whether they're on-prem, they're in the cloud, or anywhere in those environments. It's really bad implementations of certificates and keys that lead to these threats that you're alluding to, things that even go from a cloud insecurity, fraud, ransomware. All of these are becoming relevant topics today, even quantum. Yes, cryptography solves for quantum.
Wow, it's absolutely fascinating. I mean, for many people, it might be, you might have heard of cryptography, but, still relatively a little bit unknown to many people exactly how it works and what it does. Could you explain to us why is cryptography, and it comes from the Greek word crypto, which means hide, and why is it so important when it comes to data protection? And I guess the big question I have is, how does it differ from cybersecurity? What is the difference?
Sure, and that's an easy one. I think that cryptography has changed quite considerably over the years. In the old days, it was very much mathematical and all theoretical based, and we talk about algorithms, and that's chased a number of people away, or we've not implemented enough cryptography in the environment. But today, because of the changes, and we're now making what is known as transparent encryption, it's all behind the scenes. If we do our job correctly, you don't actually see what we do. So as the world is becoming less trusting, and this drive to a zero trust culture, the only way to bring back trust is, in fact, cryptography. So that's really why we're becoming so in the forefront of most organizations. There's a lot of applications out there that call themselves zero trust, but you don't just take one application that's called zero trust and all of a sudden you're now completely zero trust architected. At the end of the day, you cannot be zero trust architected unless you've implemented cryptography. So there's the big driver. It's a journey, it's a process, it's better understanding of cryptography. So to understand a little bit the difference between cryptography and cybersecurity, take an example of the king and his crown. Cybersecurity is all about that guard placed at the perimeter, the next guard at the front door, a following guard on the turret of the castle, and possibly one under the bed. You may even install CCTV. So you've got all these protection mechanisms, but the problem is that we still get hacked. We still have ransom. We still have risks in your environment, right? Cryptography comes along, and it's been around for a long time, but we just haven't implemented it from a digital perspective to the extent that we've implemented all of these protection mechanisms. So cryptography is all about taking the king's crown and doing two things with it. One is to recreate the crown made from glass. So we de-risk. And by de-risking, if your crown gets stolen, don't care. It's not the real one. It doesn't have the value associated. It's no longer a risk. So cryptography implements more of a de-risking strategy than it does from putting 15 guards in your environment. And that's also starting to bring a shift in, let's say, security strategies, where C-levels are starting to move away from these big security budgets, where it's really layer upon layer upon layer. And this has just been fed by certain institutions with, a new acronym for the latest risk, and one has to then go out and buy the latest shiny something or other. But cryptography is not really changed. Cryptography really reduces your risk. It takes the risk out of your environment, and that's the way that we approach security.
Okay, that's absolutely fascinating, the way you explained it. So when you look at Smart Crypto, you guys, what is your key value proposition, and how does it translate into a better experience for your clients?
Well, we are masters of our domain. So in terms of certificates and keys, this is what we do. We are certificate and key masters. We understand this world 110%. Now, when you start looking at keys and certificates, unlike what a typical enterprise is, more silo-based, where they've got divisions, they've got different departments, business units, the problem being is that technology doesn't work that way. Secure technology is in the integration. It's not just about each department buying their own, let's call it encryption, key management solution. It means that the enterprise lands up with 10 different key management solutions. Nothing's really integrated. You still don't have that one view. So from our sort of key value proposition, it's all about the implementation and integration of these technologies. We'll further talk about a little later on in terms of our 6 layers of what we call the crypto framework, and how that is what really drives customers to implement these technologies in the correct way. If we talk about the compliance and the standards that are now coming out for security, there's compliance, and those standards don't actually tell you how to implement. And that's the big leap of or disparity in industry, is that there's 1,000 different ways of implementation. 990 of those methods of implementation generally land up costing enterprises more money, because it's multiple solutions for the same thing. 9 of those solutions just open up more risk for those enterprises. And really only one implementation secures and enables your business. And that's really the secret sauce of the crypto framework and Smart Crypto.
Okay. And when you look at the business landscape, right? I mean, I'm a small, medium-sized business, for example, and I think to myself, well, maybe this is too high end for me. What kind of business segments would actually benefit working with Smart Crypto? I imagine your product can be applied to any business.
Absolutely. Ultimately, we're talking about sensitive information in a digital world, something that is, on the wire. So, our methodologies, our implementations, we have a number of products that reside at each and one of these layers, the 6 layers. It's not just one product, but it's a way of implementation, integration, and making it work. So it can be applied to small and medium-sized enterprises all the way up to larger enterprises. And typically the larger enterprises have those individuals or those teams with a certain level of knowledge in certain technologies. So we pretty much work with anything from financial institutions, insurers, automotive, health, government, You talk about new aged topics like artificial intelligence and how that now increases the risk of information which is possibly sensitive being used for artificial intelligent models. Even using security, or at least using cryptography to secure that sensitive information is relevant. And that it cuts across all forms of industry and enterprise.
Could you take us on the journey and just expand upon some of the different ways that businesses can use the smart crypto offering effectively? How would that be applicable? How would it work?
So we've spoken about the crypto framework, right? And the crypto framework is our 6-layer technology stack. At the very bottom is layer 1, and layer 1 is a root of trust. It's a hardware security module. It's a fairly specific piece of equipment, mainly used for those larger enterprises that really want a root of trust for their business. Layer 2 comes in at the PKI, and your public key infrastructure is anything about certificates, whether that be the generation through your certificate authorities or the management in terms of automation and management tools. Then layer 3 is all about keys. We're talking about the centralization of keys used for encryption, used for tokenization, used for secrets management, all of that centralization. Then layer 4 is your access control. So now that you've got control of those certificates and keys, it's all about access, right? And access control through multi-factor authentication, certificate-based authentication, and really looking after the access control layer. Layer 5 is data protection. Now we have data, we're looking to secure sensitive information. So layer 5 makes use of the lower layers for better data protection. And layer 6, being the last, is all about signing. So from that perspective, customers have a foundation at which they can work through and with for purposes of transaction signing, for purposes of data protection, for purposes of compliance, a lot of outcomes. And what we really drive from an implementation perspective is better ROI. What we drive is the correct usage of those certificates and those keys. So I think that's an easy way for better use, and the niche version of those solutions is in the integration of them.
Yes. Well, I mean, I love the way you've compartmentalized all of it, and it's made it a lot easier to understand. So correct me if I'm wrong, or if I've got it right in my brain. It's like as if you're entering a bank, right? A physical bank. You'd have a different kind of security to get through the front door. The teller would have different access security to their particular cash that they would be dispersing. The bank manager would have a different kind of access the data that he has to access to see what his clients are doing. The vault inside the bank would have a different level of encryption, etc., etc. So every part of the bank is not one password or one level of access to everything, but every specific level of access within that building, and the digital outside version has different levels of kind of security. Is that kind of a fair assessment, the way I'm thinking about it in my brain?
No, 100%. And that's a very logical human compartmentalization, right? And it's really about function, and it's about how we use technology. But the flip side to that from a digital perspective is that it's all one and the same on the back end. That all of those access control mechanisms and all of those data security mechanisms and all of those securing and signing solutions all make use of only two technologies, certificates and keys. That's really why the integration of these two technologies is what generates a better ROI, a more secure enterprise at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. You don't want the bank manager knowing what the security credentials are of the teller, because the teller is responsible for their money, etc., etc. Okay, now that's great. I get it now. Now, within Smart Crypto, what are your niche solutions, and what makes them so special?
Well, again, the solutions are based around how it all works together. It's all that integration, what we call a golden thread. So when we talk about the 6 layers, and each customer will come up with a different starting point depending on the department, and this is just how enterprises are made up. So each department, each part of the business may have a different problem to solve at any one point in time. The crypto framework is a nice framework and strategy to which the enterprise can take on. It gives them a roadmap. It gives them the ability to say, right, today we're solving for X, but it fits into the roadmap of the enterprise. And that's really the strength. So we see a lot of uptake from our customer base that they're actually solving for current day problem in Department A, but it's part of a bigger plan. It's part of a bigger strategy and security framework, which the crypto framework provides them. It gives them the budgeting, it gives them the time frames, it gives them what needs to happen, how it needs to happen. So that's really where the different components come in. With that, a lot of enterprises have basic solutions today. I mean, everybody has an access and control solution today, but are they using it effectively? We see customers that have 5 different access control solutions, and that's just from historical, right? And the requirement to have privileged access and the other components that go in with governance. When we start to bring them the crypto framework, they start to rationalize all of the security layers to better spend, to look after that golden thread and make a better strategical decision.
Now, Dayle, you guys have seen some impressive growth at Smart Crypto in Africa. Could you expand on this growth? I mean, it's really impressive. And talk to us about what you've got lined up for the future. What are your future growth plans, for example?
Well, growth comes in multiple forms, the first being through compliance. And as you've seen with the world becoming less secure, regulators are driving more and more privacy and security to end user. So we've seen a big drive from them. Secondly, we've seen that enterprises are starting to understand that security is actually key to their sustainability. So they're also starting to improve their security postures. And then finally, with this dwindling level of trust, business is becoming harder and harder. You've got fraud, you've got phishing, you've got a number of other sort of security risks that are making business that much more complicated and harder to perform on a daily basis. And this is where cryptography is starting to become the de facto technology that's starting to bring back trust. If you want to get your customer to trust in you, this is where cryptography starts to play a role. Cryptography is bringing back trust of the customer to the enterprise.
Very impressive. And where do you see the future of securing platforms and data, etc.? I mean, what's next after cryptography, as you mentioned? Is it sounds to me like it's going to be around for a while, but I mean, where is the trend when it comes to cryptography and looking ahead in the next 10 years?
Look, everything is pointing towards cryptography. We just touched on quantum. Any new risk coming out, and today, the biggest discussional point is quantum, and how does that affect cryptography? And the fact that cryptography already has an answer for quantum in a quantum-resistant strategy. Most enterprises think about quantum only from a processing perspective, but in terms of risk that quantum brings, you're using cryptographic methods to defer that risk to a later stage, a later date, to just basically reduce that level of risk. So it is so very valid and important, and it's only growing. So for me, from a growth perspective, we definitely see cryptography as becoming the go-to security mechanism. It is the security mechanism that not only secures, but it enables your business. And for that, I see, for business sustainability, we can only grow.
Absolutely fascinating industry. Dayle Wheeler, the Managing Director at Smart Crypto, thank you for sharing those insights with us on What's Next. Really appreciate your time, Dayle.
Thank you for your time, Aki.